I know Valerie because we're in another group together.
Okay.
I can. But, no.
So we still have 2 vacancies?
Somebody that is interested.
Heard about that. I got an email as well from someone else a little bit ago.
Should I lock the door or should
Yeah,
I?
I'll go through it down and just try to remember if we did all this.
Did you take the survey?
Hey,
Did you do
Claudia.
the survey things online?
Hello?
No. I saw it.
So this would be our first day with the iCompass. I think we're technically the second people to ever do it. I think they did it at City Council on Monday.
They
I
did
think we
what?
actually get the back of your heads. And you'll get
My head?
What are we doing?
Yeah. So we're using iCompass. So it's part of the new
Where is
system
it?
that council is using and we're using for all the boards.
Can't need the back of
It's
your. For what?
recording as well as has a YouTube stream.
So that'd be good to just let us know before we get on camera. you know.
Fair enough. If you guys don't want to partake today, we can reschedule for another time.
Reschedule?
I mean, this is a typical thing. It's going to be going with all the boards. I
Yeah,
spoke with
just-
Kim to make sure.
Little heads up would be appropriate, I think.
It was
Perfect.
an email that he sent out.
Yeah.
Was there?
Yeah.
I missed that.
All right. So our chair, if you want to lead the way.
Okay, hold on. Okay. I just got new contacts today, so I can actually see about reading glasses. Thrilled. So are there, anybody missing?
Valerie
Everybody's here?
Valerie, Jeremy.
and Jeremy, and
Okay.
that's it?
All right. Any changes to the agenda? Okay. Any public comment?
There's no public.
It's just us two. Anything, okay. So let's get started with the new business. Is this on the agenda?
No, I was just giving everyone a copy. Do you mean this the parks map or
Yeah.
no?
Okay, so we might want to talk a little bit about this, just to kind of find out a little bit more about it and.
So to backtrack, you want to add that to the agenda
Yep.
then?
Let's start off with that. So, how many copies of these did we get? Do you know?
I can ask David. I wasn't part of that project.
Did you ever have a chance to look at it?
Or just,
Not this copy, but I looked at it
Yeah.
at home.
Is it similar to the old one, or
Yeah.
can you tell us updates and?
So pretty much the stuff with Mining Park is similar, if not identical to what was previously there. So on the last one, a lot of the different descriptions of the parks had to be updated. Additionally, so take example number 1, Sandy Bluff Park. Some of them, Sandy Bluff Park, number 1, didn't match the number on the map, which didn't match the index. The index has been updated to have all the numbers, because before, if it didn't have a summary, it wasn't on the index, which I thought was a bit confusing. Down here at Cascadia Village, when I had done my little inventory, went around town, I was confused as to the difference between the two parks, so they added the trails right there. Over on Tickle Creek, they added the different bridges, which is just a little bit the darker red dashed on those. So other than that, it was kind of just common little grammatical errors potentially, and then just some updating to some of the parks descriptions. Sarah Richards? Richards, yeah. She was the lead on this, and they kind of wrote to me and Kelly and at the last minute before printing press to look at it, so we kind of ran through it and made those little edits and additions. So yeah.
Who was that you said was?
Sarah Richardson.
Oh,
the,
she was?
Mhm,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, she's lived in town for quite a while.
recreation manager.
Yeah.
If I got her title correct.
So what's the plan for the brochure?
It has been printed and people can get them if they want to know where parks are within the city, just like the last one. Just this one has a little bit better information as well as it connects the dots between the map descriptions and the index a bit better.
So where is it available?
It's upstairs, like in the utilities, and then we're gonna get some over in planning as well. When I grabbed these, I didn't see where they had put the other ones, so I'm sure David has them stored somewhere else. They just weren't over there for me to throw onto the site.
The reason I asked how many we had printed, I know when we first got our parks brochures printed, you probably remember this, Susan, we actually sent one out to each of the households on the, like with the water bill or, you know,
Right.
somehow
Yeah,
sent out.
right.
So that was kind of nice, because a lot of people, maybe, I don't know what kind of feedback you got when you did the longest parkway, but a lot of folks are, you know, what, we have a splash pad? Oh,
Right.
you know, they
Yeah,
know my
right.
neighborhood,
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
no, we have a splash pad. Oh,
Don't
we
tell
don't.
anybody else about the splash
Yeah,
pad.
I know.
So if you send it as an insert with something else, it doesn't really cost anything.
I
that true?
forget, it's,
Depends on the shape.
you know, I don't know if we sent it and paid for it ourselves or whether it went out with the utility bill. But, and I'm not sure about the cost, it might have some small cost, but it was kind of nice to have every, you know, household get a copy of it, just so that,
Sure.
because so many of our residents don't have any idea that we have trails, and, you know, the Sandy River
Yeah.
Park, or, you know, a lot of them know Mining Park and stuff, but a lot of them don't know about all the parks in town.
Right.
So it's a useful thing, so that's something you might want to think
No,
about.
that's true. I certainly didn't. I knew about Tickle Creek
Mm.
Trail, and that's about, and Mining Park, and that
Yeah.
was about it.
Yeah,
So, and I'm fairly new,
yeah,
a few years, but
yeah, it's a
I
great
I lived
resource.
here a few years without knowing much.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
a lot of exploring to do with it.
Yeah.
Then this one's gonna not get you as confused as the last one.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great resource for the residents to kind of have.
Yeah, especially with all the little trail things.
Yeah, the trails is a
Yeah.
great addition as well.
Mhm.
I'm hoping within the next few years we can increase the amount of
Mhm.
trails. And this is actually what I blew up here, because I remember earlier we had talked about having something here other than just Google Earth. So just a little something for us to kind of point to.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit easier. Obviously Sandy's everything in the darker beige.
Yeah.
Oh.
The parks have been a little bit easier identified with the greens.
So these little trails,
The little red lines.
yeah,
red
the little
lines.
red dotted lines
Yeah.
that are far too short for anybody to hike on, they have a purpose? I mean,
Yeah.
they connect certain things?
Like this little one, like when you come, if somebody's in this neighborhood, they can walk straight over to Sandy Heights without, you know, going out and around and everything. It's like a super
Okay, so
low
they connect,
connectivity
they
thing.
connect neighborhoods.
Yeah, so the pedestrians don't have to take the automobile route
They're shortcuts.
sometimes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty exciting.
And it also has
Yeah.
the new logo.
Oh, the
as
little
well.
Joker Pepper one.
Yeah,
That's
let's
a-
not get started on
Oh,
that.
Okay.
what?
That's not on the
What's
agenda.
Never mind.
It's not right? Oh, what is that?
Yeah,
Is
the
that,
new he said it has the
Wildwood?
new logo.
Oh,
Oh.
where innovation meets elevation?
Yeah, what,
I was not part of it.
really? I mean, that just seemed to come blown out of nowhere. But anyway.
The only thing that I would say about it, and, you know, this is a good example, is that, you know, I mean, it's not that I don't care,
Oh,
but the thing that kind of puzzles me about the whole thing is that, you know, our whole deal with Cascadian architecture, Sandy style, you know, talks about, you know, the colors of Cascadia and all that. I'm here to tell you, turquoise and royal blue are not Cascadian colors in any way, shape, or form. And so when I was working on some other little thing, there was some banners or something that I was pitching to David about getting some banners up, you know, and normally I would be using you know, it had a font and it had, the text was in these Cascadian colors, you know, and.
Which are, what
Yeah,
do they
Oh, you know,
technically consider them?
Are they kind of like those, this sandy style colors in general? It's
Yeah,
beige,
exactly,
it's
yeah, you know,
like short
dark, you know,
colors.
dark, rust colored,
Yeah,
brick
rust,
colored,
yeah.
dark green, sage color, you know,
Huh.
those kind of colors.
Yeah.
And so when we have, you know, so it's just kind of a disconnect between,
Hmm.
you know, I'm just surprised when they went out with that they didn't tie the whole Sandy style stuff with the at least the colors. I don't, you know, I have no idea about the font or the, you know, graphics or whatever, but at least the colors of it, just so that things, you know, because signs and everything else that we want to put up in the town, whether it be those signs that
Yeah.
they already have for the parks or whatever, are kind of those more cascading colors. I don't know if they're good, bad, or what, but that was my only feedback about the.
It looks like it coordinates with the Oregon Territory tourism thing. Kind of,
Well, they
doesn't it?
paid for it, that's why that's on there.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
their
Yeah, it
color,
is,
it
yeah.
looks like
Yeah,
it blends there or something.
it's also the same color as the city of Sandy in
Yeah.
Utah.
Is
Oh,
it-
is it really?
I mean, if you
I
look
was
at-
super
Oh.
confused because someone kept asking me about a road on the phone.
Oh.
And it was my
Yeah.
first, it
Yeah.
was my first call and I was told I would get calls like this.
Yeah, all the
And I was
time.
like, and they're like, oh yeah, they work over, and started talking about, they know where it is, they work in the engineering department. I'm like, engineering department. He's like, let me put you on hold for just a moment. I was like, where's the engineering department? And Thomas was like, ask them if they're talking
It's
about
in
Utah.
Utah.
I was like, are you talking about
Long ways
Utah?
from
I was like,
home.
no, of course not. I
Hmm.
was like,
The slogan is very cutesy. It sounds like we contracted some professional group to come up with it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
who did come up with it, do you know?
it was a city manager initiative, I think. It started before I got here.
It was
and
actually city council.
City council?
Initiative.
Oh, okay.
And then they
Yeah,
had
but they weren't the creative force.
no, they hired somebody and then they contracted out this big contract and then
Yeah.
they had a bunch of public involvement things. I think, I went to at least one of them, you know, it was like one of these, in these rooms, like a workshop type thing.
Right.
And then they had like a committee of some sort that had people on it, and so that's what they came up with the tagline, I guess, or, I don't know, that's kind of what I heard, but I don't want to, I'm being filmed, so I guess it doesn't
I
matter.
know, we
I
anyway,
don't
like,
want to, you know, spread rumors or anything like that. If I don't know, I guess I won't say, but that's the limit of my knowledge about it. But
hmm.
yeah, like I said, it's not on the agenda, so that's probably a good question for Kim or whatever. But yeah, I guess we're living with it, so it's going on all our stuff. So that's my only feedback as far as things that are park related being, you know, having that Cascadian architecture and Cascadian colors.
Hmm.
It's kind of a little
I
bit.
don't think we'll go to these, because we already have in the, is it the Sandy River Park, where we have, you know, these things? that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll continue
Yeah.
that, because that's already
Yeah.
approved.
Right, but you know, if you go to put the city logo on
Yeah.
stuff, yeah, then,
Maybe it would
Yeah.
just get like etched. Not colored or
Yeah.
something.
Anyway.
Like this little guy on the side.
uh-huh.
You know, we can just change the colors on the ones we use.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's allowed, but that's something to consider in the future. Yeah, I mean, because I actually did try to do that on these banners, because I thought, oh, well, what would it look like? And I didn't get that far with it, but anyway, it's something to consider that could be done if they wanted to go that way. Okay, so, so the one thing that I heard about, of course, on our favorite neighborhood grapevine is Facebook. And if you recall, we, on Earth Day, did a Sandy River cleanup down at the Sandy River Park.
Yeah.
And found 2 huge homeless camps. One, you know, we call that huge, you know, humongous. And
You mean
one
like more than 10 people or something? Or just,
more than, like, it is about a 1/4 acre large of crap this deep.
oh my God.
At least.
Really?
Everything. I gotta wash my bad friend talk too now that we've televised.
Is it over to the school district?
No,
Forward
this is on the main trail down,
It is.
you know, as you're going down the main
Yeah.
road there,
Yeah.
there's a camp on the right and there's a camp on the left. The one on the right, we got all cleaned up on Earth Day. Now, God only knows, I haven't been down to inspect it since April. But we, with the help of the Vista Loop volunteers,
Oh, yeah.
Olga and a bunch of other, we had at least
Mhm,
probably
yeah.
12, 14 people. And we, you know, filled a pickup to the brim, and actually 2 pickups, I think. And so, got that one cleaned up. But the one on the other side would take, you know, multiple trucks, or at least the large dump that the city has. So we didn't have the time, and we were out of time at that point.
So the volunteers aren't expected to clear out the campers. They're
Well,
cleaning up the
okay, and
mess.
so, and kind
Right,
of doing a
yeah.
little bit of a go back, if you remember that story I told about going down there and posting the signs on the trails, and that mentally ill guy, and, you know, screaming about cutting my head off, and, you know, swearing and all this stuff, and the Ant Farm crew was down there with me, and they thought I was getting attacked, and I thought they were screaming for no reason. Anyway, turns out there was a guy down there, but he left the camp, and the cops, when we called them, they came down, and I never got to, they wouldn't let me go to where, you know, I showed them the one camp, and then they never let me get to that other camp, so I had no idea it was that
Oh.
big.
Mhm.
But anyways, I knew where it was, but I didn't ever check it out. And then, but by that time, the guy had left, because they saw him, he was walking out as they were coming in, and they knew, obviously knew the guy. So anyway, that's kind of what's, so evidently that's where he was staying at this camp. And so then, since after the April thing, I kind of thought, well, you know, Mike was aware of it, and Kim was aware of it, and, you know, Mike was showing pictures to everybody about it, because we'd taken pictures of it. And I just thought, you know, I said, well, I'm sure the Ant Farm would help clean it up. And so then it's a matter of, you know, kind of coordinating with, you know, Ant Farm, and setting up a date and a time, and getting, you know, some materials, you know, gloves and trash bags, and getting the keys to the bollards, getting a dump truck, and then putting out notices on Facebook for volunteer help. And so that never ever happened. And so meanwhile, this other guy, he's a Sandy resident, I'm not sure where he lives, I can't remember his name now, he was on Facebook. And it's an unusual spelling of his name, I forget what it is. Anyway, he kind of found it and said, you know, we're gonna go get her done and clean it up, and he's a real go-getter. And anyway, he wanted to clean it up, and I kind of said, well, it'd be helpful to kind of, you know, conclude the city, because, you know, otherwise you're going to be schlepping all this garbage, you know, half a mile uphill. And so, you know. So unfortunately, I wasn't going to be around that day that he's planning for August 4th. So then I kind of forwarded to, and this was the whole weekend when the water was out in town. So, you know, Kim was already, I just forwarded to Kim. I think she had already seen it at some point, and I just said, you know, it would be helpful to have somebody at the city that things, you know, there's a lot of folks that want to help volunteer on parks, cleanups, whatever.
Yeah.
And so who's the person, you know, we had a volunteer coordinator that when I was at the Forest Service, we had somebody kind of coordinate the volunteers, you know, here's a project we need done, here's the materials and supplies we need, here's the date, here's, you know, recruit the volunteers and let's get her done. And so that can happen. There's a lot of stuff that can get done that way. It's just we need a kind of a point person at the city. And I don't know who that is. But it's usually got to be somebody who's going to work a weekend, because most
That's when they're
volunteers,
volunteers.
you know, right.
Yeah.
So anyways, I asked Kim who, you know, can we please kind of dedicate a point person, at least for this cleanup, to, you know, get it lined up, because like I said, they're going to, you know, need, you know, they may be able to get their own pickups in there, but you know, anyways, they're gonna have the keys, and, you know, you want somebody from the city kind of present, you know.
So is this definitely gonna happen on the 4th?
Yeah, they're planning on it, yeah.
Like
And,
in the
you know,
morning, or?
City or no city, they're planning on doing it, so,
Mm.
you know, I don't know if they're gonna, you know, I don't know. They're wanting to, you know, help from the city and stuff, but they also kind of, you know, it sounded like they were gonna do it, you know, whether city wanted to do it or not, this should have been cleaned up you know, they were pretty, you know, shocked that it's been there that long and that it hasn't been taken. I mean, you can imagine if this was in the middle of Mining Park, you know, the
Oh, right.
outrage that we would have.
Right.
And so using that same kind of, you know, criteria, we really do need to have that kind of, you know, patrol and awareness and, you know, management, especially in Sandy River Park.
Yeah.
I know it's bigger and stuff and more spread out, but it's, you know, it's
It's not
really
the only
dangerous.
place that we have.
Oh, no, there was a
Homeless
homeless
people,
camper
there was one.
reported at Tickle Creek yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, you heard about that?
And
Yeah.
right by
And
the
then-
Bluff Road substation, Kitsoulis has had
Oh, really?
people at some
Yeah,
point, I
yeah.
think they got like that, you know, but they pop up.
Yeah,
in
but
many
they're in our
places.
parks, and I guess they, over by the Cedar Ridge High School, the middle school and all that, somewhere back there,
Yeah.
they've had a big camp back there. So I think there's a lot of folks that will help us clean all this stuff up. I mean, the guys from Vista Apartments were, and all that were just, amazing. And it went pretty quick. It doesn't take a lot of time, and there's a lot of help out there.
Yeah.
But we just need to kind of have somebody at the city to kind of help coordinate it and
Yeah.
keep track of it, and then be the person that kind of makes sure that the cops are going down there so that they're not just all back in another, week, because that will suck the joy out of any volunteer
Yeah.
when you go back in 2 weeks and it looks the same as it did, or,
Wow,
worse or
yeah.
whatever. So it really is gonna take some repetitive patrols and, probably a camera there at Marcy, at the end of Marcy Street, just, and other access points and stuff to just kind of keep patrolling it, and, cause it's a safety issue, it's a trash human waste issue, and
Yeah.
so,
Well, then it just makes a park kind of not very usable, because people are afraid to go there.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, we can't have it come in, the S word, the spring water, I
Yeah.
just,
Right.
that's, we just can't, we have to be on it,
Right.
Like this homeless person, a neighbor reported it. And, so Ernie, they checked him out, and they said they didn't have any camping equipment, and that they notified him of park closure, and they said they were just cooling off down by the creek. And then today, that was what, was that day, today's Wednesday, I think that was Monday. And then today, she, kind of texted me back saying, they're still here, which, I'm going, still? They should have been. So, yeah, it's just kind of, you gotta, it's just like the whack-a-mole thing, you just gotta really get, keep at it, but
I
we
thought
have to
there was
keep
a
it.
volunteer coordinator with the community center. Is that, or what?
There's been so many moving
Yeah.
responsibilities there. I would have said like a Carol or a Sarah or a, there's, I know, yeah, I can talk to you more about that, later about,
Do they know where, like Rizzo talks about, like the whole thing in Eugene, like that these homeless people that they were having weren't fit from other places, they were actually people from Eugene, but are these homeless people around Sandy, from Sandy? Or are they homeless people that have gravitated out here, or does anybody even ask?
Well, I think my understanding, at least a couple of them are, they're in the Sandy police blotter about every other week.
Oh, so they're.
So, it is folks that,
Are
are very
Sandy
familiar to
people.
the Sandy cops and,
Yeah.
are not, so.
I mean, there's
you know,
problems for other reasons besides homelessness?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they may be mentally ill, they may have a
Right.
lot of other issues.
Right,
So, who knows?
but Sandy residents kind of.
I don't know where,
Yeah.
I don't know their
They
background
resided
much.
first,
Huh?
Where they resided before, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
How-
I
how
know
are we
that,
gonna know?
I know they've been seeing their names in the police
Yeah.
blotter for years, so.
So this is their home, it sounds like.
I think they lived here
Okay.
longer than you.
Just
Right.
Well,
Permanent residents.
Somebody
Right,
was
so-
asking me, like, what kind of things does Sandy have for homeless people or, mentally ill people? For a long time, they talked about, building that place up, just this side of Avamere on that property. The county was gonna do something, and then they did, they backed away and stuff. But the city itself doesn't really have anything to deal with, like, to take care of homeless people or mentally ill people there.
There's,
So they just
it's too
become-
small to do that. The
Yeah,
resources
well-
are, in Gresham and
Mhm.
Portland,
Right.
Yeah, so.
But, we are growing, and, I'm not suggesting a whole new
Yeah.
department exactly, but I think, when somebody asked me that, I had to say, well, I don't know of anything. So like if somebody was homeless in my woods or whatever down the hill, you're right, you would call police probably, right? Even though there
I
may
think
be,
that,
maybe
there's-
not really criminals. Which
As
is-
far as, mental health resources and things like that, I
Yeah.
think the senior center has some information
Like
about
Cami.
where the contacts are.
Yeah.
Where they,
Right.
they deal with that kind of thing, they can kind of provide that information, so.
Yeah.
But, you know, the bottom line, I guess, for me is that, you know, we cannot allow.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah,
no, we
homeless,
can't really.
you know, getting established in our parks and
No.
trails, because we'll never
Right.
get another trail built if
I
that's,
know,
if that's kind of
yeah.
how it, yeah.
But that seems like one way to ensure that, maybe have good ways to take, places to direct them to, rather than just the police station or some kind of solutions, you know, I don't know. Remember when sand was free, and then they started saying that
Mhm.
thieves were coming from
Mhm.
the city, and
Mhm.
I don't know if that problem's gone down since it's not free anymore.
Well, when you have a lot of resources,
Yeah.
that draws, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, draws more people here, because the resources are here. You know, that's why you
Yeah.
have a large population in Portland, because you have a lot of resources there. I don't know, those are problems that were not on the agenda, but
No,
they're
I
far
know,
beyond us
yeah.
to solve, but it is just something, so, you know, the kind of take-home message is getting a point of contact for a volunteer effort, and especially for this August 4th one. And Kim has the guy's name, and I'm sorry, I can't think of it.
Yeah, what is his name?
And then a long-term person, you know, either a person or, you know, if it's somebody different, you know, every few months or something, a rotating thing, I don't know, but, you know, this comes up fairly often, and on, like I said.
Or it might depend on the project.
Exactly, right. And I think there's just a huge amount of potential there. You know, I think that Joe and, there's Brian and Joe, and it's not another Steve, who's the second guy? I can't think of his name. Tyler?
Marcus, over at the pool.
No, there's, you know, Joe's assistant, sorry.
Haven't been there.
Okay, anyway, the assistant parks maintenance guy. Anyways, they're, you know, fairly busy and overloaded and all that. And so what I'm saying is that I think if we had some discrete projects, and recruited you know, and were willing to kind of, you know, help ride herd on a volunteer work party, there's a lot of folks out there in this, you know, town that would help, you know, sign up for a work party.
It sounds like we might need a volunteer coordinator.
Well, you know.
And it's got
yeah.
to be, it can't just be anybody, it's got to be the
Oh, I
right
know,
person.
I know, and I've done that role, you know, like with the salt cleanups, you know, I do the Tickle Creek Trail, this year I did the Sandy River, and all, so it's, that's possible to do, it's just, you really need, speaking for somebody who's done that role,
Yeah.
it really does need to have, you know, some,
No, it needs to be somebody who knows the
well,
staff
and I,
and can
you know,
get things
if
done.
it was me, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be, it has been in the past, but I want somebody at the city that like, okay, who's gonna go down there and patrol that?
Yeah.
Where are we gonna dump
Right.
this? I need some money for the dump fees,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. You know, you need to have
Right.
somebody,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not paying the dump fees, so, you know, so that's the kind of stuff that you need to have, you know, and if it was just purchasing materials and all, Nancy did that, you know, before, and so that's the kind of thing, is that we still need a city point person.
Yeah. Seems like for any volunteer opportunity, we should have a point person, even if it's
Mhm.
not for parks, but they
Oh.
direct it to
Mhm.
parks planning, or direct something to Tanya, direct it to Mike if he needs something. It seems like we should have something. That's
And-
kind of what
yeah.
I'm hearing.
Yeah,
you
and they need
about
to show up on the
is.
day of the thing, just, you know, they don't have to be there the whole day if they can't make it, but, you know, at least kind of help be there, you know, help show up and, you know,
Like a
take
staff
care of any
person?
issues,
Potentially, or a volunteer or something
Yeah.
like that.
so.
I
Anyway,
know,
that's,
like, with talking with Tanya, that is something that moving forward, we're trying to massage out to figure out, not specifically volunteering, but where what falls with planning, parks planning versus them.
Mhm.
Like we were talking about, I think you had mentioned one time, like gazebo rentals, like, does that come to me? I'm planning parks, or does that come to you, more
It goes to
recreation thing?
transportation or somebody,
Yeah, right now it goes to
right?
transportation,
Or-
which
yeah, it
to
goes-
me was random, but it's something that we're
Tra-
massaging out.
where's
When you wanna,
transportation?
Like Andy.
when you wanna reserve the
Oh,
gazebo,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so we've got,
Yeah.
so we've got Mike in charge of the maintenance, you in charge of the planning, Tanya in charge of the events, and Andy in charge of the gazebo rentals.
Yeah.
Put that on the agenda for next month. That's kind of part of the, you know, problem is when it's everybody's responsibility, it's nobody's responsibility, as the saying goes, so it's hard to be effective.
And I'm noticing that from
Yeah. Right.
perspective as well.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, right. Okay, so that's, are there anything, you know, like I said, a point person, and then the second thing is really getting, you know, this coordination with, you know, this kind of, you know, I'm sure it's gonna come from Kim and Ernie, but, you know, the real push
Ernie.
on patrols
Who's
down
Ernie?
in Sandy River
Oh.
Park.
And follow-up patrols.
Yeah,
kind of
right.
like-
And I know they've got the ATVs, they bought ATVs specifically for that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Curious how many miles they have on them, because.
That's all
yeah.
they're supposed to be used for, it's just.
Well, I think so. You know, I'm sure they go down to search and rescues or something, but, you know,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's just really important to,
Right.
and understandably, that's a hard place to patrol because, you know, you can take your car, but it's kind of a dead end, and so that brings up issues of safety, and they have protocols on, you know, driving into dead end things as
Right.
far as escape and all that stuff. So we need to, you know, so somehow they need to figure out a strategy for how to patrol that safely for them and safely for all of us to use it, so.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I have point person, follow-up patrol. We'll talk with Kim. I know she, when I brought it up, because I said, you know, do you know anything about this? I was forward, and she said, Kathleen did reach out to me. It was right when the water stuff
Yeah,
happened.
so she-
Right.
So
it's
she was like, yep, I need to
Yeah.
get all that.
Yeah.
So I'll remind her tomorrow and kind of just
Hmm.
sum up what we just talked about.
Mhm.
So she knows.
It seems like something that could escalate quickly, like, I'm not on all the Facebook things, but the things that I've seen, like, they're angry
The camp.
at the homeless activity at all, and I could see it very fast going
Oh.
vigilante territory where we're like, you know what I mean, like,
Like citizens being
Yeah.
upset with the.
yeah, which, I mean, it's our backyard, it's like,
Understandable.
it's not cool, but I just think it's something that definitely needs to be kind of at the top of people's agendas, because it seems to be escalating fairly quickly.
Well, the safety concern, you know, from planning perspective, day one of graduate school, health, safety, welfare. So I mean, safety, welfare, two of those three that just kind of popped into my mind.
Yeah.
So that's something I'll
What?
keep pushing about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to.
Planners' kind of mantra
Oh.
is to protect the health, safety,
Oh,
welfare of the
oh.
citizens that we serve. That's kind of what they taught us in
Right.
school.
Did they talk to you about homeless people?
We had a specific class about
Oh.
homelessness
Well,
and
did they ever
housing
say
X, Y, and Z,
how,
but
how much of a danger are homeless people? I mean, does people study it? I mean, do they actually?
they do, that's not
I
what
know
my
they
emphasis was
trash
on,
places, but do they have a track record of harming people?
I don't know, Susan, this guy was screaming that he was gonna cut my effing head off.
Doesn't sound great.
So,
Oh.
I wasn't, you know, I don't know, you know, I'm
Mhm.
sure he has some issues. I don't even know his
Right,
name,
okay.
so, but, you
Yeah.
know.
It's
But I
all
mean,
kind of a
it's
case
scary.
by case
places,
When you
yeah.
hear somebody screaming that in the
No,
park,
yeah,
you
right,
kind
right.
of, you know,
I
whether or
know,
not
I
the-
mean, I haven't been down there
Yeah.
for quite a long time, because I don't have a big dog and I don't have
Right.
a,
Yeah, right.
I don't know, I haven't, so, yeah.
Well, like, and you're exactly right, there was some, the comments were getting kind of,
Yeah.
I don't want to say vigilante, but they were.
Exciting.
I could just see it escalating that direction.
You mean by the
Exactly,
people
yeah.
that want to see the cleanup?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
And
kind
it's,
of,
and, you know, if
venting
we pay a lot of
their
money for
energy.
our homes and our properties,
Right.
and then to have like people just allowed to camp there, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's not cool.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, they knew about it for a long time,
Yeah.
you know, so,
But they don't live near that place, do they?
what?
This is in Sandy River Park, there's
Yeah.
no but homeowners that are right nearby that are, I know you're up the hill, but it's not like,
I
But
think
like-
anyone who
Yeah.
has property in
Yeah, that's what I
Sandy
mean.
paying for
You
those
should
be able to
amenities
feel
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
walking on
Yeah.
your trail.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
I'd hope most all who are invested in the city are invested in all of it.
Right,
regardless of-
exactly.
And the point is just that if that was in Minot Park, I mean, there just wouldn't happen, so we
Right.
just can't, we have to have the same kind of criteria applied to Sandy River Park as we apply to Minot Park. We
Right.
wouldn't allow this huge dump homeless thing.
I don't
Or, you know.
disagree, no, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Chit chat.
No, it's just that, I don't know, I mean, the homeless thing, you know, it's not just gonna vanish, that problem, it seems like, we can't.
But I think it's something we could be very proactive about and
Yes.
not let it become more of a thing than it is.
piles of trash.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
not
we
saying
could
that they're
have-
gonna disappear, they may go use some other properties, but
Yeah.
my interest is that they don't use our parks and trails.
Right.
You know, where they end up after that is, you know, obviously, they're not gonna just, you know, vanish, I get that, so.
Well, the school district doesn't have a problem with their
Oh,
rules.
certainly they do, yeah, they have over
In
there
their
the nature trails,
And what do
yeah.
they do about that?
Call the cops
Yeah.
occasionally, yeah.
Huh, okay.
Wonder where that is?
Wait,
You know where I'm
no.
talking about? It's really
The-
not on your map, but
what
see
was
the
O'Hara Nature
kind of dark
Trail?
tawny color, not the buff color, but, you know, like where the blue dot is, I think that's blue. You know where the high school is there? Okay, see the white in the lower left corner?
Mhm.
You know, everything around, between that blue dot and the white is, kind of nature trails,
Yeah,
so,
they have a lot.
You haven't walked around there?
and so a lot of,
We gotta make you walk
peop-
around.
you know, that's always been kind of, issue where they have, because it's right behind Safeway and all that,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay, so the
Normal
next agenda
citizens
item
to be.
is the status of the Parks and Trails Master Plan. And let's kind of, I'm gonna bump that one if that's okay, and let's go to these other ones that are a little shorter. Longest Day Festival survey results, how did that go?
So I gave you guys a
Wonderful.
copy of both the 2013 from the records that you gave me, as well as threw some together on this one. So we were out there for longest day. We had 44 surveys taken from adults and then 107 dots from children. Mike, I don't think you got to see this, I saw the three of you. So we set these up, we kind of had an adults activity with the survey and then a children's activity, some other stuff for them to play while the parents did that. So we kind of identified for adults, just because their attention span's a little bit better, the kind of different variations of the parks that our current master plan has set out for, to kind of see what people are wanting. Definitely the community parks and the trails were the big winners. We had one lady very excited about pickleball courts, and that's.
So are all these, are these all docs for,
Yeah, people were like pickleball, and I
What
had
is
to even like
pickleball?
Google
What
it.
yeah.
So pickleball is kind of, in how I'm gonna describe it, somewhat like tennis. So it's pretty much half of a court of tennis where you're volleying. But I think the ball is more of like a birdie, so it's kind of in between tennis and badminton, from what I understand. So essentially,
and
you
there's
can
two people playing?
Mhm.
Or is it like,
So essentially, you can put two pickleball courts on one tennis court. So instead of having the net, you know, go from side to side on the shorter width,
mm-hmm.
you would then turn it on the longer ones and have two. But she was very excited about pickleball courts, and it sparked others' interest as well. So that was unique. I kind of envisioned this more for people to add their different random things, but these two got put on here and they ran with it.
We had dog
So
parks, I'm surprised,
Yeah, I'm surprised there's only 7.
I was surprised at that one as well.
Did it kind of get added later on?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. a
Okay,
little
so maybe some of the other ones.
bit. Mhm.
So
they
this
went
was
behind there.
people putting preferences, things they've used? I'm not
they
understanding what that
Preferences.
means.
So the way we were presented is I gave all adults 4 red dots and said, we want you to kind of look at the different options that you have between this as well as the kids one, which I'll show you in just a moment. They could use theirs on either one of them. And we asked them to put a dot next to the items that they would want to see within their community. So we have little descriptions on the different sizes and kind of examples of the different ones that we already have. So community parks, those are the larger ones in nature, which have typically a bit more features. So it seemed like that's what was definitely leaning towards, not necessarily the top box.
So you had 4 dots and 5 choices.
Mhm.
So they could, I
They-
mean, it could
yeah, I mean,
be.
they could have put all 4 on
Okay, they
one,
could put all
yeah.
4 on one, okay.
I wasn't limiting them in
Right.
that sense. I was only limiting them to 4.
Right.
So I said go hog wild. But we also thought it was beneficial to have adults as well have option to put them on here. We gave kids, just for the attention spans, 1 color. We tried to give them some good visuals, that way they kind of understand, because we had some very young kids. Adults were the red ones, the colorful ones are the kids. So we had two different ones. This one got pretty full.
I've never seen that. Oh.
You know, I found that photo and I was like, kids garden, that's gonna be perfect. So this was the first one that went up. Obviously, it's a bit more colorful in nature. Once that filled up, I brought this guy out because I
Oh,
took
I
two.
see.
Okay, great.
Oh.
Yeah. So
So by water activities, what, is that a splash pad or the splash, yeah, we need, yeah, everybody's saying we need another splash
yeah,
pad.
you'll
They
see that in the
discovered it.
results.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether or not we need another one or maybe to improve that
Yeah.
one, give them other amenities if they want. These like obstacle courses and natural play features were big hits. I went to the Cully Park over in Portland's grand opening. I had a friend who worked on that. And I saw a lot of really cool stuff.
Mhm.
I'll send you the photos. Have you gone
Yeah.
to that one?
No, I heard about it. I heard they were having the big opening,
It was
yeah.
really cool. They had this one feature. It looked similar to these rocks,
Mhm.
where it was pretty much a cone. They had the rocks on one side, and in the middle was like a, kind of looked like a suspension bridge, you know, like that you walk on, but you could walk it up. On the other side, it had going down slides, and then on this side, it actually had the ropes course that you could climb up, and then under it, rocks that you could go up. But then, because the topography changes, once you got up to the top, you could go on a bridge to the higher level instead of going around or up the stairs.
Neat.
So I was like, well, this kind of has kids,
Mhm.
adults,
Yeah,
as well as like kind of teen, the rocks.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
well, I'd probably be just sitting on my butt on these big rocks if I was
Yeah.
like 15.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Instead of like bark and whatnot, they
Mhm.
had kind of like a mesh, but it wasn't individual like pieces like bark is, but it was cushioned. So I'm very interested to see what that is.
Was it black?
No, it was very colorful.
Oh, okay.
I'll send you guys the
Yeah,
photos.
yeah,
and
I
it'll
love that.
spark.
Do you know who designed it?
I don't know who designed it, but I'm sure I
It's
can
easy
pick
to
it up
find it
pretty
online.
easily. And then I was looking at, when I was leaving, because there's not much parking there, but it's a park, so we should not be driving there. So we left, and some of the sidewalks were improved, but it was an interesting way they improved it. It wasn't just like straight concrete XYZ. It seemed like a much more economical way to improve those sidewalks. I thought maybe looking into the designer and what elements they incorporate in that would be a good idea for us moving forward, just because, as we know, our budget's not super robust. We do have a lot of SDCs available, but while we're talking about master planning, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. I hate those ideas of mine, but.
Was it
looking
packed
at-
gravel or?
It wasn't packed gravel. It actually looked similar to concrete, but it didn't, it was solid, but it kind of resembled packed gravel. So it seemed more durable than packed gravel, but had the effect of concrete,
Yeah.
but didn't, it looked like
Yeah.
it was gonna be an economical,
Yeah.
but it didn't look
Yeah.
bad.
Packed gravel, when you get the stone dust on top and then you put
Mhm.
binders on it,
Yeah,
it might have been that because that's almost like concrete.
okay.
And it's, but it's still permeable.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely was.
Yeah.
So I'm
Everybody
very,
thinks
very
packed gravel is
interested.
kind of, you know, like pea gravel or something, and it's.
Just really compact, okay.
No, it's,
That's
you know,
what my
that's what Tickle
vision
Creek
was.
was packed gravel with the stone dust, and
Okay.
of course they scraped all the stone dust off with the machine tools.
Yeah, but that one had a lot of cool
Yeah,
stuff and
yeah.
a lot of really
Mm.
cool natural elements. And they also had something that was pretty cool where they had different stations throughout the park. They had different exercise equipment. So it was
Yeah.
as easy as like a bar for you to jump over. You then
Mhm.
had, you know, an explanation of what it is, which seems kind of cool to potentially have like around our trails or over at the community center or something like that. So it's gonna be
Like a little
some kind of-
exercise, remember the ones,
They
we
used
we
to
had,
have it.
have it around the high school, I
Right.
mean, the high school
Okay.
football field.
Yeah.
You could run around the edge and it had all these exercise, what do you call those?
Stations.
Stations, yeah.
Exercise.
Yeah.
So that's what
Mhm.
they had as well. They
Was
did
it
a
more for
really good
kids or
job.
adults?
It was adults.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, adult stuff. I saw kids using
Mhm.
because they're kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of them looked like jungle gyms in senses, but
Mm.
they actually had the exercise tutorial, like a plaque that would explain.
Wow.
That does kind of bring up the question about maintenance and if they could tag XYZ, but I'm sure there's probably other different unique ways. But
Mm.
that's something to explore when we start getting into those developments.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we did as far as the surveys go. So this was from the 2013. The intent of doing this was just to kind of confirm that everything's still going the same way. That's what we're looking to do. The first one, have your members visited any of these parks? They were almost in the same order. It looks like Sandy Bluff kind of pulled in front of Johns Rood.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So, the visitation to Longest Day, was it mostly kind of the Cascadia, Bornstead Village area neighbors? Did you get a sense for where they were from?
I didn't get a great sense. Whenever I saw people with wagons, I assumed they were from pretty close.
Local.
I wouldn't say I saw a whole bunch of wagons though. So that's kind of how I was gauging it, because I didn't want to bombard them with too many questions. I
Yeah.
hit them with 5
Yeah.
kind of big main questions, specifically
Yeah.
parks and households.
Okay.
So I would say we got a pretty good plethora, because then I saw a bunch of people on bikes
Mhm.
and families on bikes with the pulling station, the pulling carts. So that gives me encouragement that they were coming from far.
I feel like there was
Yeah.
a good number of people that were not from that neighborhood. Yeah.
Bornstead wasn't on it, but they were visiting Bornstead that day, so,
That's
that
right,
was
'cause it
an
wasn't
oversight,
done.
but, yeah.
How funny. So that, how funny.
So they're pretty close. Salmon Creek was kind of out there, so I kind of expected that to be similar in nature. And again, this was only done with the 44 surveys that were taken at the Longest Day. And this one was much more robust and comprehensive in nature and had additional questions that we didn't ask. Just because I knew people were moving kiddos.
Was that done with North Survey Monkey, whatever it's called?
This was, I don't think it was Survey Monkey, this was actually sent out to households
Right.
back in 2013.
Yeah.
What was it we did with Survey Monkey? We did a few things with them.
I know we sent it out. We may have also made it available in Survey. I don't know if we did Survey Monkey. I can't remember.
We did with
Nancy
I
that,
didn't see
the guy that was on the board for a while. He's fine.
that.
Yeah.
So how often do you visit? I was very excited and impressed by weekly at 59%. So, I mean, if we're gonna potentially ask for council to give us more budget and money to
Yeah,
make
right.
upgrades, that's a really good thing to have.
But it used to be even daily. Look at daily
Yeah,
before.
daily was really
Really
big,
big.
but that could be telling that some of our facilities need to be updated, so
Oh.
maybe people aren't coming daily because, so I mean, it's kind of fun and exciting to get these stuff.
Mhm.
And then when we're talking about master planning and upcoming
Yeah.
upgrades,
Yeah.
so. Parks and Trails features needed, wanted Sandy, public restrooms. I knew that was gonna be a big hit when I saw all the families coming through.
Yeah, right.
Um,
It's gone up.
Yeah. So the paved bike ped area and then the natural trails were the two that I was kind of like, okay, these are going to potentially steer a little bit of what I'm hoping to do with the master plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then a lot of softball fields and stuff are pretty likely. So I was kind of thinking that plus the fact that community parks were big, those could tie into each other and different, from the style activity with the adults, that and the parks and natural trails came up as the big hits. So between that and the survey, those kind of fed off of each other to say those are the two big things that people are wanting and seeing.
Oh.
The next one, if you kind of think about those two things, plus looking at the household, shows out of the 44, 75% of those households have children younger than the age of 12. So that plus the fact that they want community parks are saying they kind of want it to encompass all of their family. Obviously, not many have 13 to 18-year-olds, but those younger than 12-year-olds are going to become 13 to 18-year-olds. So trying to figure out how to accommodate them is also something we need to think about when we're kind of
So
proceeding.
is this first bump less than 12?
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
I flipped that around.
Okay, that's, okay, I just was, okay, and then 18 plus, number of members in each age group, age bracket, sorry. So this means like 89% of the people had 18 plus year olds in their, help me
In
understand.
the household, yeah, so out of the 44 people who did the
Uh-huh.
survey, 89% of them have people over the age of 18.
Okay.
Now, 3 of the people didn't put any within
Uh-huh.
those, so that's kind of the skew. I would imagine and hope.
Most households
I'd
have
have someone
18.
over 18, because you have to be 18 to sign a lease or
Right,
buy a home.
yeah. Okay, so,
That
but
was
you,
the
like what you're
oldest
saying
skew.
is a lot of the people there have young kids under the age
Yeah.
of 12, and relatively fewer that responded have teenagers.
Teenage kids,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And then so the one below it is just those exact numbers, because the next question was how many under 12, how many
Right.
between.
Mhm.
So of that, there would be 68 children, 12
Mhm.
teenagers, and then 83 adults.
Cool.
Of course, that should probably be 100. So at least everyone should have one. So those are kind of the quick surveys, and the back is just the dot activity in order of kind of the number of dots each one got. Adults included these ones, as well as the different sizes of the parks. And then obviously at the bottom, the not at the bottom actually, pickleball courts and the dog parks were included in that as well, which beat some of the
I'm confused,
other
so,
stuff. Mhm.
so this, which one,
So there was this and then there was the other one.
Yeah, so.
I'm
if I
kind of
had my-
surprised that sports fields being as low as it is for the kids. It's not that high for adults.
Some of it could have been because we have some already, so they were trying to prioritize that affordable.
Okay, so
into
they're
other things.
satisfied or somewhat satisfied
Potentially.
Well,
And that's
with
what
what's out there.
I could only gauge.
Yeah.
Or infer, but.
And I feel like of the results from this are from families with small kids, because that's who the Parkway and
Yeah.
not so much like teenagers who may have been more interested in that,
Yeah.
but they didn't come.
So it's a good idea to look at this as compared to what we did in 2013 as well, to kind of gauge if
But
it's way off.
what,
or-
my
Yeah, your
confusion
question.
is, so, trails showed up really big.
Yeah.
So is this, or,
So the adults is both this and this. Kids is only this. So what I did in Excel is I put all of these categories and I just put how many numbers per dots they got. And then on a separate column, I did all of these and these for adults and counted up the red dots per category. That way I could just include the features plus the types of parks that adults were responding to.
okay, so, for example, like the
Mhm.
trails and natural spaces here would be like the bottom box, all the dots there. All the dots there and all the dots there went under the 5th most popular thing.
Yep.
Because when I look at all the dots here.
Yeah, so you would add these two together, then, trails in nature space, because some adults may have put their dots here or on both. So obviously of all the dots that we've received, adults received, they want 35 and 36 total.
Because the
So
way,
add those
this,
together.
So-
I see your, I see
Oh,
what.
yeah,
So
see,
this would.
I'm
would
gonna
end up
focus it
being
on the
way
trails.
up here
Yeah.
then.
here's all the trails here, and trails here, and trails there, and I would expect the top thing
To be
up here to
trails.
be trails.
So what I need to do in my Excel is add
Combine them.
those two
together, yeah, because that's.
Yeah,
And
what's the
then
difference
sort it,
between
yeah.
trails in
Okay.
nature and trails
Because
in
that would be
nature
71,
space?
right, and it would be
There
way up
is no
here.
difference.
Yeah, well,
So why
yeah.
not separate?
Well, if you notice, that's a board and this is a board. We let adults do both of them. So
Okay.
this, we're really trying to cater to kids.
Yeah.
But kind of at the last moment, we're thinking, well, hey, no, we want to know what adults features, because obviously.
But you only
I'm
had
excited
4
to-
dots, did the adults only have 4 and they had to put them on here, or did they get another 4 for this?
They had 4 total
Yeah,
to
okay.
spread it out on either one.
So, from a display standpoint, it would be, probably, you kind of ask 2 different questions, and so
Mhm.
having the results be, like, this is interesting to me because it really shows a preference for the community parks and the trails, and not so much for those other things, which is important to kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
show. And then this is also equally important, like you said, with, where's the water place then? Which one is that? That's that, yeah, so, yeah. Oh, yeah, see, that's all the people in Woodside Park who are hired to share their splash pad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that would be, just kind of from a understanding of, it's great to kind of display all this, but just have the, different
Yeah.
displays for this question versus the other stuff, that's
Okay.
really helpful.
And I have that already in 2, so I just,
Uh-huh.
because that was the one that gave me the most trouble, as you can probably imagine, and I don't really know. So I already have it separated, and then I did a separate sheet and combined them, so I was like, I don't know how we
Yeah.
can capture both.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just 2 separate.
It's okay to have
tabs.
separate,
Yeah.
it's okay to have separate, they're different questions.
Yeah.
And, because some people might want the community parks because of the ball fields and the other things that you get in the community park. So there's a lot of interpretation with, kind of combining those 2 questions
Oh,
into
that would
one.
be-
I think it'd be best if I just had 2 for
60
adults,
one.
one for their features, one for their.
Preferred park styles,
Preferred
yeah, whatever you call it, yeah.
definition.
Good. So overall, you thought it went real well?
I think it did.
Good. It's kind of funny, because, it's very, I guess I would be more surprised if it was not, consistent, but it's pretty
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah. So that was kind of the results. Do you have any questions that you want to talk about?
So the old business is staff updates Fantasy Forest mural.
Did we want to talk about the?
I'm gonna come back to that, yeah, because,
Okay, so the mural,
Yes, I
I just took a
yeah.
photo of it. It's
Oh,
just
gorgeous.
really
So
pretty.
good.
how did the ribbon cutting go?
It was good. She had a lot of family here.
Good.
And then a lot of staff our offices were closed that day, so a lot of us got to go out to it. I came in for and got to show off my husband and I was saying what they're doing. When they were installing it, I like the story just because it's kind of sweet. Bees were actually trying to land, 2 bees were trying to land on
Aw.
those flowers because it's just super lifelike.
Oh, wow.
So it's really
Amazing.
nice.
I love her work.
It's really pretty.
Mhm.
I walked down there today and took the photos. I was like, maybe in the office, it's pretty
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And it's really pretty.
yeah.
So that went nice. Speaking of Fantasy Forest, on the 5th of July, they did an audit on the Fantasy Forest playset. I don't think we've received those back. I had sent that by email, see if you guys have any questions. But once I get that, I'll send it to you guys, just so you guys are aware of how that audit went. They were looking at all the different tires, all the different wood, X, Y, Z, what the condition is, what the recommendations might be.
A little background on that is that, what's the name of the company?
Ooh.
Yeah, anyway, the company, so that was a community build. The community all came together and built that. There was like a committee of kind of leaders, and then recruited all this. But and it's something that this company, they sell all the stuff, but the way, their whole thing is to have them community builds. Like the one in Troutdale was also a community build by the same, Imagination Station was the same vendor. And so they kind of reached out, how old is that now? Gosh, it's 20 years old, at least, 20-something years
I
old.
was like 24, but I could be off.
It was before my child was born, so she's 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's
24.
24, yeah.
Close-ish.
So anyways, they reach out to us to say, how's it holding up? We do audit, if you'd like us to come and audit it and kind of just
After all those
inventory the
years.
conditions and what needs to be replaced. And I think there's probably also, I would expect them to make some recommendations for like new and improved, kind of fun, more
Yeah.
fun design stuff that we could add on. So that might be in the offing, I don't know, not now if we have money for it, but But that's kind of, it was the same vendor that sold the
Hmm.
equipment and stuff,
Hmm.
came and did the audit, so, you know, it's gonna be helpful, I think, because it's kind of a unique structure.
Hmm.
Okay, Pet Safe Dog Park Grant.
I applied for a Pet Safe Dog Park grant for improvements to Bluff Park, potentially for shade structures or kiosk XYZ. I know there's some money that is in a trust for the park, and this could just potentially help that. I didn't have any matching grant requirements, so I thought nothing ventured, nothing gained. I know last year they awarded in August and made the announcement, so potentially we might do something, we might get something.
Is this a
for
nationwide or Oregon or?
Nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah, so they award 25,000 for new parks, that's not to acquire land, or potentially 5,000 to upgrade and maintain. We obviously applied for the upgrade and maintain, and that's limited, I believe, to 15, 10 are awarded. So that's,
10 or 15,000?
no, 10 or 15 cities are awarded
Oh.
the 5,000.
Oh,
Yeah, that's,
5,000,
yeah,
okay.
that's limited.
Okay.
To 5,000.
Okay.
And then to a specific number of cities.
Yeah.
Forgetting
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
How much money do we have in the little kitty for the dog park, you know?
I think there was like 16,000. It's not a fund that I've been too involved with because the park was already there and I've been trying to figure out the SDCs and the budget and everything else. But I think that was from fundraising and matching donations from what
Uh-huh.
Sarah Richardson has talked to.
Yeah, I mean, we do the bark for the park and
For the
stuff.
park, yeah.
Okay. All right. That should be enough to cover some shade structures and.
Yeah,
kiosks.
free money though. Like,
Yeah, no,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so.
But I mean, if
it
we
took,
don't
you
get
know,
it, yeah,
a
if
day
we
of my
don't get it,
time,
it
so.
seems like we could still
Yeah.
proceed with
I
some
think the idea
improvements
was
there.
that so many people before it was even built came out to raise the funds and,
Yeah.
you know, to kind of show, hey, we're also
Yeah.
doing our due diligence to kind
Yeah.
of give you this 5,000, let's keep it
Sure.
going.
Yeah.
From what I have heard and understood, participation in some of those volunteering, you know, has gone down a little bit, so just to kind of spark up, that's kind of why we're like, well, maybe we
Yeah.
can throw this in, and
Yeah.
I didn't have to match anything.
Yeah.
Which is
Hey, you cannot
kind
win
of
if you do
key.
not play.
Yeah,
Dial in for
nothing
dollars.
ventured, nothing
Yeah.
gained, is what my
Great.
mother's always said.
Thanks for doing that.
I always say, so I applied for that.
Yeah, great.
Fingers crossed, I don't know if I did a good job, but I think I did a good
Yeah.
job.
Good.
A for effort, so I tried.
Okay,
So I wanted to let you guys know about that.
all right. Do you have coffee here?
Hate it.
8:03.
Okay. Let's, does anybody have any other issues or questions?
Is the Barlow sign repair still in anybody's mind?
It's been forwarded to Joe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remind him about that because it's something that Kelly's even brought up that needs to
Yeah.
be on the top.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I drove by it again just to kind of keep my eye on it.
Yeah.
Maybe I distracted him with this mural, but I'm gonna re-distract him towards that.
My neighbor caught a kid doing it, I guess, and he tried to get him to tell him where he lived. He wouldn't. And then he said that he just talked to him for a while, and the kid was just mouthing off, and he hasn't seen him again, so
Well, that's good, just get him off.
maybe.
When I was looking at
Yeah.
different grant opportunities in XYZ, I did come across one that is for monuments and Oregon, state of Oregon, treasures and XYZ.
Heritage sites and
Yes.
stuff, yeah.
I think they are on every 2-year cycles, and unfortunately, the not
Is that is that state or county?
state, I believe,
Okay.
is what I
Yeah.
found. And I
So
think it's
there's
every
also
2
a
years.
county one, there's, I think, Clackamas County, I wanna say it's Arts Commission or something, but also covers heritage sites to look at.
I started a bookmark folder with all the different grant opportunities to try and figure those out. And I threw that one in there, not the Clackamas County, I looked at that one. The other one was every other year, so I was thinking maybe that would be something we could explore for, stuff like that. Maybe figure out some sort of design that would be better.
So that
And
wouldn't happen
deflect
again.
from,
Yeah.
kind of like how we were talking about different stones,
Sure.
the type of stone to use, like can't be chipped like brick or just in
Mm,
sure.
kinds and stuff like that. But it is something that's definitely high on my list, and I will nudge and push and hello to get high on my list.
So, you kind of reminded me that, the other little thing that did come up was, some kids sort of getting, and I forwarded it to, you know, Mike and you or something about the bald-faced hornets
Oh, I
on
remember that.
Tickle Creek over by the Millwood. I think I forwarded it to you.
Bald
because-
face, what?
Bald-faced hornets, they're like
Oh,
mean wasps.
I don't. remember.
Attack unprovoked.
They do, you know, they will, you know, unlike like a yellow jacket nest, you step on a yellow jacket, you're gonna get stung.
Yeah.
Usually they don't like come attack you if you're walking down the trail. Bald-faced hornets, if you get in the area, and it's those kind of paper brownish looking
Hmm.
nests. And I guess it's, you know, by Knollwood, I think. She sent a picture and I think I forwarded that to y'all or to Mike or something anyway. Just, you know, there was a lot of comments on it, on the Tickle Creek Neighborhood Watch site about it, so, you know, it's just, and you
Every
kind of have
time
to.
I pass that park, it seems like there's kids playing.
Yeah, and so, and it's down by the water, it's not
Yeah.
right on the trail, but they, you know, I guess a bunch of kids have gotten stung, and it is like really an unpleasant experience,
Yes.
really.
If you don't know you're allergic to it, it's really
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, but even then, it's just like one of those stings that like lasts for a long time. Yeah.
I've only been stung once and that was enough.
Yeah.
Really. Okay, so let's talk about the Parks and Trails Master Plan.
Would you mind if I would?
Go for it.
Okay.
I saw there was they took care of the wasp nest, apparently there was there too.
Did they?
I think so.
So they got the
I
nest,
was talking
you
to a
think?
mom down there and she said that her daughter got stung twice by a wasp nest. And then
Well,
she,
this is kind of like a wasp. I mean, it's a.
well, she seemed to think that this got taken care of. This
Okay.
was a couple weeks ago
Oh,
though.
and this was more
more
recent,
recent.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a difference. You know, I don't.
I think it was different. I think it was a whole different species.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because wasps don't really attack. Like you get
It
their
was
nest.
their nest. Yeah, it was like right there where they were playing apparently.
Okay.
And so she,
Yeah, yeah. It was hanging in a bush by the water or something, which is usually where they.
yeah, I think something like that.
There's Knollwood.
But she seemed to think that one.
There,
Where's the-
this
where's
is Sandy
Bluff
Heights.
Road? Where's Sandy Heights?
And this is here.
That's, okay. Well, yeah, I get on here.
But you
Right
go
there.
this way,
Yeah.
and you come on this back trail, so that's right what they're talking about, only
Okay.
maybe that side of the creek. Is it on the, maybe on the non-trail
All right,
side
but
of
it's
the
on the
creek?
non-trail side.
Maybe, I'm just guessing
That's what
because,
it looks like, because I don't remember, I
no,
don't walk
oh, the
through a
little
creek.
park is,
That's not
but,
right.
but the beach, the lion's nest.
I know, and they're like,
Yeah.
you know.
It probably, there's,
When
the kids play or something there.
Okay. So
And
it's
that's where
probably
those
on the
little-
other side, because I don't
Because
recall
those-
walking through a
yeah.
park, yeah.
Right. Huh. And then you come out of this.
I come out, sometimes I walk
You know,
to here,
Yeah.
sometimes
tell us
I
about
walk.
Ladue.
All the way to there, wow.
Depends.
You know, I mean,
You can go over to the little Barlow Ridge and look at the beat
No,
up sign if you
no, I
want.
just-
This is
I
very
just get-
steep right here.
No, I don't
That's
do
one of
that. I
those
just
little,
get-
again, activity
Yeah,
things.
no, I
You
just
know,
get,
that-
I just stop here, I've never even known where it goes.
But you
from there.
could, you just cross the street.
You know, like he's 24, so he has like a.
But it's not at all obvious,
You know, maybe that's what
because you don't see that.
No, I guess you don't. That's the cute thing about those,
Yeah.
those little trails.
Well, they have a lot of those.
Yeah, so you don't have big signs.
They're just like
pointing
tough
out.
on it.
Right.
But still.
Huh.
Yeah.
Where's that hornet? Are they, near the play structures?
I gather it's like
Um,
beyond, you know, there's play structures, the trail,
Right.
the creek, somewhere along the creek. That's usually where they put their nests.
Huh. Okay.
Master planning. So as many of you guys know, we had to do different audits for our STCs and our budget, and it hasn't come out terribly great into our favor. So I've been working with our attorney to figure out what exactly is the best approach to figure out how to connect a CIP list, individual plans, and a Parks Master Plan. So while I've been figuring that out and knowing like, hey, we don't have a whole lot of money, but our current parks really need to get updated, I'm kind of curious to see how that funding piece of the master planning comes into it. Because off the top of my head, what I'm thinking is, okay, we have all this SDC money to buy and build new parks, but if people potentially aren't enjoying our current parks, how are we going to keep building new parks, not be able to fund them? So that's one element of the master plan that I think we really kind of need to strategize on. Do you have any questions?
Oh, well, no,
Okay.
sorry, was I
No,
looking
no, no.
funny?
No, I was just curious because you turned your head. So I was wondering if I had said something.
No, no,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
just,
Well,
So
in
that's
your-
a big
I will
one.
kind of ask a question.
Yeah.
So, one of the, things that kind of comes up is that, to strategize for existing parks is when you bring in like a new dog park to an existing park, and we only have one, and it's crowded and, underused, or it's not convenient, or whatever. So, did you confirm that a new facility can be used, can be paid with, at least partially with SDCs?
Yes, so, for example, what I inquired about was Tupper Park. I know that the playground set is needing to be updated. So I said, okay, well, hey, we just had a pre-app for a duplex, we'll get SDCs for that. Obviously, a family's gonna, potentially two families are gonna go in, put more strain on the park. There's a new apartment complex up there. So we've gotten all this since it went in. So I sent that to our attorney and said, hey, we've, acquired SDCs for that. We need a new playground set. So can that money accommodate for a new playground set? He said, well, yes, but it can only be for the percentage it was increased.
Size-wise,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, so he said, you have to quantify it. I'm like, how do you quantify a third of a slide? Because 10%?
Well,
So it's
yeah,
really unique.
yeah.
Because my understanding of thought process was, well, this is how much we got. Can we enhance the park? We don't need to purchase any more. Can that money be used to not update and maintain, but accommodate for that new use? But he says you have to quantify it with a percentage. So
But if you
now-
put in
yeah.
like a pump track there,
Mhm.
okay?
A
So
what?
there's something, a pump track. It's like a little,
Bicycle kind of.
bike thing for kids to,
Oh.
BMX type, or little mountain bikes and stuff. But it's a fairly small thing that you can kind of put in, and it's, they just kind of go around and around, but it's a really fun thing. And that's something that, so that would serve,
That's a new
feature. And so that's the kind of, so when you're talking about strategizing
Yeah.
and also capturing that 9+, not the, tot lot stuff.
Yeah.
That's, I think, kind of where the low-hanging fruit is with the SDCs
Mhm.
in the existing parks to fix them up.
Yeah.
But you're right, the existing play structure, we're gonna have to come up with the money for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Or volunteer in kind and all that.
And then another caveat, like with putting a pump station, that has to be within the CIP
P,
list
right.
specifically identified.
Right.
So that, it's like this
Mhm.
tier thing. So I'm trying to see what other municipalities have done as far as figuring out how to quantify that 18% increase and how that could be used. As well as seeing if there's not a general way to you do a CIP list, not to be so specific as we're gonna put a pump track in this place and that's the only thing that can be used. How it's worded to where, we could use SDCs, not specifically for a pump track, but for a facility to enhance that, if that's a way we could
Park
word it.
improvements.
Something
Kind of,
like that.
Tupper Park
Yeah.
improvements. Well, that's how the, the way it went before was that we had a CIP list, and some of it was more general like that,
Mhm.
of park, mining park improvements, and then once the master plan got done, then we went in and put in, more specifics as we had them.
Yeah.
But, Tickle Creek Trail kind of went in there, and, but, some things were specific and some things, because we had a plan to do it, but
Yeah.
other stuff was more vague. I mean, Tickle Creek Trail was, a line item, but,
Mhm.
it was a big line item, and we didn't, so.
And I don't know if it makes a difference to whom our financial person is, because I was starting this process with our previous one, Lisa was explaining to me. She has since moved on to different things. We have someone new, so now I'm kind of relearning it because I don't know. I'm just, now it's a different person telling me to thing. And now I'm also talking with an attorney about it. And I'm also doing these case studies. So the funding element of it is big in my mind, because I want to figure out how we can spruce up the current ones to get people coming back daily, to encourage them and excite them about new parks. We have a couple parks in Deer Point, Champion Village, that are currently empty. Champion Village is very, very new. It's not having the same thing as Deer Point that's been vacant for a while.
Is that what they're
But
calling that place?
That's the one that we
Yeah.
drove by right over here. So I
Oh.
mean, that one's SDC eligible.
And so is Deer Point. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been vacant for years, even though it has been SDC
Well, there was,
available. So
I mean, at Champion, there was nothing built there, so,
I mean,
at Champion,
yeah,
there was nothing built there. so-
there is nothing built there or Deer Point. I'm
Yeah.
saying we have these empty parks,
No,
and we
I,
want to encourage people to come to the existing ones
yeah.
and encourage them and excite them about us
Yeah.
doing something.
No, I just meant that we, you know, Deer Point was all built out around that.
Yeah.
Not completely, because the other half, that's what we were waiting for. But Champion, we didn't really have anything for that, because at the time, there was nothing, you know, no houses being built.
Yeah,
And that just started here this last, you know, season.
yeah.
Um,
And I'm saying, I know it's not developed now because there wasn't anything, no one was gonna be using it. But I don't want them to think, oh, no, Deer Point's sat there
Yeah,
for, or
right.
you're not gonna do anything with it. I don't want another development to have that preconceived
Yeah.
notion. That's why I'm saying we need to figure this stuff out. Those two are eligible,
yeah.
but I hate to throw something in there and then be like, well, now we got the great stuff and not going to venture out anywhere because all the other ones aren't exciting. I want to excite them about all of our parks.
What are you thinking for, help me understand, you know, you were saying that, you know, we need to fix up our existing parks.
Mhm.
Tupper obviously is the
Yeah.
prime example. Meinig, you know, we know about, to some extent, I mean, it's
Yeah.
been fixed up a lot, but, you know, there's some things in there, obviously trails and stuff, but have you kind of got other ideas in mind for other existing parks that are high on the priority list?
For us, it's definitely Champion and Deer Point currently.
But those are SDCs.
Yeah,
That's
Right.
new park.
yeah. So as far as the other ones are concerned, I mean, Tupper is definitely the top of my list, and the Cascadia Village, the specific things that we had talked about with the gazebo, is something that I'd like to rectify. I don't like the idea of just taking down what we paid for and established and people came to know. I'd like to try and figure out something we could do potentially for those. Again, we don't have funds as of right now, but figuring out how we can incorporate the elements that people have come to love with our parks back into them is something that I'd really like to do.
Well, Cascading has some potential for other for other facilities there, besides, you know, you've got the gazebo,
Yeah.
and so you're talking
Because
about.
they have a master plan, which would,
Does it,
that's not SDC.
what's in the master plan for Cascadia?
I'm not confident that it is in the 1997 master plan.
I mean, I think, I might, I could be
I'm crossing
wrong.
my fingers real tight that it is.
No, I mean, my understanding was that, you know, the gazebo, the top lot, and the grass, or maybe there's a fence around it or something, I think.
There's a fence around the top lot, and I don't think
Yeah,
that.
not
grass
Okay,
there,
not the whole
right?
thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was anything else in there. So that's, you know, when you're talking about expanding new facilities, again, you know, like putting in one of those natural play structures you saw, like in
Mhm.
Colony, you know, that would be an SDC-able thing.
If it's in the 1997. But if we redo the methodology with the CIP list, that's the thing we're running into right now.
Okay, so what you're saying is that unless something is in an existing plan, it's not SDC, right? Which is true. And so, that was, okay, so. trying to
It's
think.
more than just
Yeah.
the one part. So our methodology has to say it needs to be in a plan and a CIP list and a master plan.
Yeah,
That's where we're
right,
kind
right,
of friction,
right.
because right now our methodology specifically references us back to the 1997 and says
Right.
that's the plan. So if it's not
Well,
that,
Well, no, that's,
even if there's another plan, per our attorneys, that's what I've come to understand.
Because we
That's
haven't
what
finalized the new
What-
one,
what-
I mean.
Yeah,
But-
just like the methodology
Okay,
specifically
Let me question
says.
that a little bit if I can. Is that okay to question?
You're
that?
more than welcome to question it, and I'll continue what I
Dick.
was gonna say whenever you're
Okay.
done the question.
My understanding is that all those master plans that got done amended the 1997 master plan.
Okay.
They were adopted by the city council and as an amendment to the 1997 master plan,
When did that happen?
when they got done.
At different times?
Yeah, Bornstead master plan,
Okay,
you know,
right,
when they got
right,
done,
okay, got it.
they were presented to the city council, who then adopted those as amendments, you know, maybe it wasn't, maybe it didn't get recorded as that, but the intent there was there, that those were amendments to the master plan. And therefore would then, the CIP list or projects in those plans would then get added to the CIP list.
I can double check if that's not how I understand it. Or I could just be thinking of the fact that Mining Park was a master plan, but the methodology specifically said you can't use SCCs for that. So I can double check that, but then I might be
Yeah.
confused on that part, but I
Yeah, okay.
don't think that's how it is.
Yeah.
'Cause the last methodology that I read didn't, I've read so many different things on this, didn't specifically call out or its predecessors,
Mhm.
how it's typically a methodology would say 1997 master plan or any other document substituted or whatever, approved by whatever. I don't remember seeing that part, just because the mining jumped out at me. I'll double check it and cross-reference with our attorney, but.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is that what that, because I remember y'all talking about that quote out of the 97 master plan, so to kind of help bring you all along. In the 1997 plan, if you remember, which you don't, I think you were in grade school, but. In the 1997 plan, it talked about Mining Park as one of the as one of the parks. And I don't even remember what it said about its specific project. I think it talked a little bit about some projects, but it basically said that those were not, and I'm gonna use a weird word, SDC, you know, they were not eligible for SDCs is the proper terminology, is that right?
The methodology said that,
Yeah,
not the
right.
master plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's true for kind of what our understanding of what we were gonna do in mining at the time, which wasn't a whole lot. In fact, let's see, that was after Fancy Forest got done. Because we didn't have any big plans for that.
Yeah.
Now, then we did, then we did all these different master plans of the mining stuff and the Bornstead stuff and all that. And the intent there, presenting them to city council and stuff, was to have those master plans adopted as amendments to the 1997 plan so that you could incorporate those on the CIP list.
Yeah.
And then the CIP list got generated with those approved plans, approved by the city council as amendments to the original plan. So that was the whole intent. So, that's kind of my understanding of it, and.
And I think we're on the same page on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's just specifically the methodology wasn't updated.
Yeah.
So that still trumps.
Yeah.
I know the methodology says you can go back and if it's in the 1997 or an amended
Uh-huh.
to go in there, but then the methodology says, but you still can't use it for mining. That's what we're running into. So regardless of if it
Yeah,
says the
uh-huh.
other part amendments,
Yeah.
it says you can't use it for mining. I'm not sure why. I know from what I have understood, a previous city manager or something amended it to include that. So it was amended at some point to include that. Our grant was applied for with, I believe, that understanding, but when we ran into it, trying to figure out how we could use the grant, that's what we ran into, and that's what our attorneys explained to us, so.
Yeah, and that's where I would say, again, kind of splitting hairs, but, the dog park, yes, the redoing the trails, no. That's kind of where you can't use the SDCs for the redoing of the trails. A dog park is a new feature, that's eligible.
Is that in Mining Park?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's in Mining Park, and the methodology says you can't use SDCs in that park. it's a new feature in that park, is what you just explained, that's how I interpret that.
Where, okay, so what I thought I heard you say was that the 1997 plan had some little sentence in there that said SDCs could not be used. The method, tell me, you keep saying the methodology, help me understand what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
methodology is totally separate from the master plan. Methodology
Right,
for SDCs
yes.
dictates how we can use them. That document says you can use X, Y, Z for A, B, C. But you can't use it for Mining Park. So when I look at the plan and it says, even adopting through city council, Mining Park, this other one that says how I can use SDCs says you can't use it for that park.
So you're
This
saying that,
trumps
that can never be amended?
It can, we have to amend it, that's why I'm
But I thought
speaking
you
with
said
the
the
attorney.
city manager did that, he amended it with the
He
city
amended
council.
this to include Mining Park at some point, from what I understand.
But he didn't
But he
amend
never
it.
took it away whenever the plan was approved in the 1997 to amend it.
So he added it but didn't delete the old reference, is that what you're saying?
Council approved a new plan.
Yeah,
That amended the 1997.
uh-huh.
No one thought about changing the methodology to say we could then use it.
So the plan was amended, but not the methodology?
Yeah.
Okay, so does everybody understand that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And see, the methodology, you know, my understanding is that that's just based on how much we charge developers and all that.
And how we can use it,
Okay.
which just says we can't use it for
All
that
right,
park.
but that sounds like an oversight that shouldn't be a big deal
To
to
fix,
amend,
that's a great
right?
question. So
Yeah.
if you went into next month's city council meeting and said, we want to make an amendment
To the methodology.
to the methodology.
And
for
then
that.
just, we're not gonna do that right now, because we wanna clean everything up at once. We're not piecemealing anything anymore. Yeah.
I know, but I mean,
Because then we're gonna amend it to include that, and it's,
I know,
I
there's
think
a
it was
lot
an
more changes.
uncomfortable
Yeah,
look to amend it so we could use it
Yeah.
now for the grant that we already received before we amended it. It was something that we weren't comfortable with doing. We want to clean this all up, methodology, CIP list, Parks Master Plan. That way we can go full force. That's why I want us to really rack our brains over the next year to get this done right. And look and see the best way we can do the methodology now, the best way we can do the CIP and master plan so they all work together. So keeping, maybe one needs to be a little bit vague in nature, to then reference these, which one is the top of the pyramid, which one's kind of running the show, and which ones are supporting. That's my focus right now. It's a lot of webs to weave, even just this conversation now with the amendments in the 1997 methodology and it was previously, I can already tell we're getting confused and maybe honestly a little frustrated because it's a lot to take in. And it is for me too, because SECs are completely new for myself, coming from Colorado and Texas as a planner. They don't have them there.
What do they
And-
have instead?
Well, I would always work for big municipalities that had recs, or
Oh,
parks and rec departments.
just
that
a
had-
budget.
districts, you have
Districts,
districts,
yeah.
so they would tax.
And departments, so I've never done
Yeah.
planning like this, but this was one of the reasons why I accepted this position. I moved all the way here, I said before. So it's something I'm excited to do. It's, SDCs really threw me off, but I'm learning a lot, as you can tell. And I'm excited, but I really want this to be a lot of work now, and then in the future, we can have the fun of just figuring out the parks.
I think the reason I was kind of bringing up next month's thing is it had to do with the grant. So we have a $650,000 grant for Meinig that, are we walking away from it?
600, it was 275, is that the one? But grant for
The
650.
one for the dog park in the back,
The trails and all that?
That was
the dog.
275,
275,000?
yeah,
Oh.
that's what we were awarded, not 650.
Okay.
I think it cost 900, so 650 was supposed to be what we had to contribute, based upon the information that we got back. I'm not gonna be the most popular person in this room, but we've given back that grant, and that was,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, when did that happen?
a couple months ago, when we emailed you.
there was a mention of that you might do that. There was never any kind of confirmation.
I was
Wow.
expecting a telephone call from you, to be quite honest, so I was surprised when
you know,
heard it, yeah.
My take on that whole thing is,
Huh.
we won't get another, and I know the guy said, oh yeah, that won't, but I know who sits on those boards that decide the grants.
Okay.
And when you give a grant like that back at that late date after you're supposed to have spent it a year ago,
Yeah.
they're the ones that really make the recommendation. The guy that what's his name? I forget his name, that, was emailing you and Kim.
Huh.
And that's why he,
Nancy's contact.
yeah, well, the
Nancy's
guy in charge of
contact,
it.
yeah.
He, he'll say, oh yeah, that's not a deal breaker or anything, but I know, Nancy was the chair of the people that sat on that, and she and I both, I know
Yeah,
having.
well, I guess we'll
sitting
see
on
with
those
time.
boards.
Right now, that
So
was a
that,
decision by our city manager.
I know,
That's what
I know, but I
we're
just,
proceeding.
I just think, oh geez, because that's our secret to making the whole thing work as far as being able to, because we don't have a huge general fund to throw to match these grants. The grants can kind of help us
Yeah.
offset the SDCs, but we still have to have a little bit of, general fund to match the grant, and then the SDCs, it's like it's like that P, what is it, the P word, what did I say, the foundation
Yeah.
grant. I want to use the P, the foundation building wall grant.
This is the skiing part.
The skiing,
the
right,
skiing
whatever you
part.
call it, but I mean, there's SDCs,
Your
there's grants,
method.
and then there's the,
Yeah.
city contribution, and then there's the volunteer in-kind stuff, and so when you don't have the grants, that's kind of a big
Yeah.
thing, so.
Well, when the grant requires you to match 40 and I have $500 for 2018, doesn't really get me very far.
Well, we had,
And
but we had some.
in good faith, they were saying as long as in good faith you were making strides,
Yeah.
we weren't going to be
But
able
we
to.
had all that
make
money
it
for the
fit.
lights.
What
That money
lights?
went to the pool guy.
Oh,
I don't know about that. I don't
wow.
know.
How
I'm
much?
not sure. I'm not confident. I wasn't managing the budget at that point. So
I know.
whatever you would like
You had
to
more than
speculate,
$500 to.
whatever you would like to speculate, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not
Yeah.
aware of.
Yeah.
So I
That's
will
not
say
speculation, that's
I'm not
from
sure.
somebody who knows, but anyway, yeah,
Perfect.
so,
Good.
So what's gonna happen up there? I mean, haven't they done part of it? Haven't they chopped some trees down
No,
and
nothing.
done?
No.
They did nothing except sort of flag this and that, and it'll just be the little old backwoods it always was?
Yeah. That's it right now.
Well, we could have an ivy pulling party or something like that.
well, we'll just have to kind of plumb some other grants, I guess.
Well,
That
can
would
I
be
ask a
good.
really dumb question at this point, which is, why, I pay taxes to the city of Sandy
Yeah.
and the school and all that. Why can't some general fund money just be used more than just to mow the lawns and stuff?
That's what we're
For
exploring
parks
to look
maintenance.
into.
I mean, where is the rest of the money
It's
going?
going to maintenance, it's going to park.
Pool.
Pool,
Go put in the
yeah.
pool.
All the
A
extra
bunch of money
tax
is going to
money
pool, I will
is
tell you
going
that.
to the pool.
A
I
lot
went
of
to,
it, yeah.
I went to the opening of the pool
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that day and saw all these kids and things, and but the thing I've always looked at is I always walk in there and look at the height of the shower heads. Have you done that? They're the same height they were when I was on the team, and I was shorter then. And when you see adults go in there, they kind of, they kind of try to get under the shower heads and stuff. I mean, and that hasn't changed. And so, anyway, and somebody or other showed me a few things that have changed.
Yeah.
And,
That's not really.
but,
Well, that does bring up a good question, though, from a funding standpoint, about the utility fee for the pool. When is that going to be? Because right now they're, using a lot of the general fund parks money, recreation money for the pool. So, or it's all general fund money, I
Yeah,
guess.
so that's not parks money, that's general fund.
general fund money that might have been available to do
And I
something
don't
with
manage
parks.
that budget. I'm really focusing on my stuff and seeing
Yeah.
what I can do
Yeah.
for parks, not.
But I'm
Oh, no,
curious
these are
about
all
the
things
utility
money.
fee. Do you have any idea about that?
What is that utility fee like?
Well, they were going to have a utility fee to help, cover the costs of maintaining the pool and managing the pool.
I think that would be a ballot right? 'Cause
Yeah,
you
we have to vote on that,
on
don't we?
No, it's a utility
Really?
fee.
You don't get to vote on it?
It's not a tax.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't make those decisions.
Hmm.
That was their plan, how they were gonna fund it, yeah. That's how they were gonna fund the pool, so that's kind of what.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I'm not managing the pool, so I'm not worried
I
about
know,
their funding.
I know, but see,
Yeah.
but what I was saying is that, you know, if we take over this pool, that money's gotta come out of somewhere, and who's not gonna eat? And it's gonna be parks. Cause, you know, cause we gotta have water, we gotta have streets, we gotta have police,
Yeah.
you know, and so where do we have a little, well, you know, and so that was my concern, so that was what they floated to us, was that, oh no, it's not gonna, we're not gonna make somebody go hungry, we're gonna have this utility fee. So that's kind of my concern, is when is that coming online? So,
Cause I need to
you
ask
know,
somebody else
yeah.
that, because you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Charge of them.
But it affects our availability of general fund dollars for the
Yeah.
parks, so that's kind of where my interest is here, so.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know, and I support both of them, I wanna kind of go, you know, I support the pool, you know,
Yeah,
I
right.
think it's great, but I also know that, you know, funds are limited and those things are very expensive, as are
Right,
parks.
yeah.
And kind of what I was talking about earlier, whenever we were looking at some of the survey stuff, some of that information is catalyst to say, hey, look at what's happening, give parks money. I mean, we got some to fund my position, as well as some to take on other maintenance, but you didn't give us any to enhance and maintain the parks, other than public works for mowing and X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
To me, it's not making sense, so going that avenue, going a different avenue to potentially add whatever it would need to your water bill to get 50 cents from you, to get that sum of money every year to be able to allocate that towards a park. Those are the avenues that I'm exploring while trying to figure out the methodology to make that all work. I'm not terribly concerned with the pool budget. That's out of my hands, so I'm focusing on what I can and need to focus on while taking care of my other business as well. Which for myself, I've spoken with my supervisor and I'm taking on a little bit less responsibility with the current projects and other stuff. That way I can focus a little bit more attention on this, because that's where I really want my attention to be focused on moving forward, who has agreed to that as well. So I'm very excited about that. I'm closing up a couple projects, have a couple smaller ones now, so I'll get to focus more time on those. So moving forward, I'm hoping to get a lot of these things and concerns rectified while so we can really do fun stuff that is kind of mentioned. So let me try to not go gray over here with the stress and take some of that off of you, and we can get to the fun stuff.
Do you feel like you have a, you know, with all the trails being the primary thing, like, do you have a pretty good idea of the trail network that we kind of mapped out?
I've been looking at the stuff you had, and then I've also gone around town to kind of see, after this specifically bikes, kind of what connections we already have, because people were talking about the north and south connection, getting from where you live to south where we were in Bornstead. So I've been looking at that, as
So
well as
you
a
mean
couple
bike lanes,
bike
or-
lanes, as well as I know some of the goals for council have been to increase our trails as well. So obviously those are floating to the top.
So
that
our
Christmas
bike lanes are paid through transportation.
So those would be on there,
Yeah,
but it
so-
still connects
Mhm.
all of our parks
Yeah,
and
and
two
it's-
trails.
Have you seen the TSP, the bike lanes in the TSP? Are you
Yeah.
thinking you might
I
add to
think
that?
they might
or-
be redoing the TSP, updating the TSP. They've gone
Yeah,
for a
they
grant.
did ask for a grant.
Yeah.
They asked for a letter of support from the Parks Board for a grant to
Right.
update the TSP, although I swear, maybe it was just Clackamas County just did their TSP, like in the last 3 years or something. I thought we did ours, I could have sworn, but, so, yeah, but I wrote a little letter of support from the Parks Board. I signed it.
Oh.
No, I was just, you know, it was just something that, yeah, they're.
After our urban
yeah.
growth boundary expanded, they didn't update the TSP, so it doesn't even include all of
What's
it.
the
So-
TSP?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Transportation System Plan. So it's kind of the long-range plan of the road system within urban growth boundary.
But it includes bike lanes along the road, so that's kind of what he's talking about.
Transit routes,
Yeah.
minor, major, collector.
It doesn't include trails,
No.
off-road trails. Well, it's almost,
Yeah.
is there any other questions that anybody has about that?
Wow.
So did everybody hear Kim's leaving?
No. When?
She's putting her house on the market on August 1st, and then whenever she sells the house, she'll be giving her notice at that point.
What's that all about?
She's just retiring to move to Idaho.
Oh,
Yeah.
Huh.
That's right. Okay, cool.
was that a surprise?
I think she was intending on moving in 3 years, so they pushed it up. I think it's an equity thing with their home.
Who's they?
She and her husband.
Oh.
Yeah. They just, the market right now, I think they feel it's
Hmm.
flattening off, especially for the kind of property they have, is how
Hmm.
she explained it. So right now, for them financially, it's just the best situation.
So I hope they, start doing a good search,
Yeah.
because that's.
She's talked to council apparently, from just what she's told us, and said she would like to be part of that process if it's okay with them, wants to make sure we're taken
Why?
care of. Well, I mean, she's our city manager, she has 83 employees all total that she has kind of come to care about.
Yeah.
And-
Is that normal?
Yeah.
Did Scott sit on the search for replacing him?
And she just offered.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they hired Seth, that was
Yeah,
Seth,
right.
Seth already
That's
worked
right.
for the city, and then when Seth left, they hired
Mhm.
Kim. So my hope is they, it's a pretty important position, and I hope that, my personal feeling is I hope they, really advertise it and,
They're doing it nationally.
yeah, because there's, a huge amount of, it's a great plum job for, a lot of folks. And I think there's also capable people within the city that might apply for it,
Mhm.
but I'm always, feel
Mhm.
like competition is good for
Yeah.
everything, and you get the best person for the job, and sometimes that's the person that's already here, and sometimes it's, somebody outside, and I'm sure, if it was advertised, I'm sure there'd be a lot of competition for it.
Andy Howell is gonna be the intern.
Really?
Just acting, acting city manager. Cool.
I have something interesting but extraneous to report on if we have
Go
some
for it,
time.
uh-huh,
Okay. You all know Eagle Fern Park?
yeah.
Eagle Fern Park is surrounded by land owned by Weyerhaeuser, PGE, and the Bureau of Land Management. I'm a director emeritus of the Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District. That district is going to purchase the Weyerhaeuser land.
Oh, cool.
And we'll work, a lot of it is in forest, but some of it has been recently clear cut. It's been replanted, so right now the replant is just about overtopping blackberries, so that process is beginning. PGE is willing to not log their property and to give the conservation district an easement that would keep it unlogged.
Mhm.
We're working with the Bureau of Land Management. They have something in there, they have to log to a certain extent because their land's dedicated to, what is it called? C&E lands, counties get money from it. They're under a legal obligation to do some things, but they're willing to work with us so far, it looks like. So that would mean that Eagle Fern Park would be at the center of several hundred acres of land that it would be dedicated to trails and recreation and forest diversity rather than forest products.
Um, That's a county park, right? Eagle
Fern.
Eagle Fern?
Fern?
I'm not sure.
I think it's a county park.
If you all want to know more about that, I don't have any,
Yeah.
I didn't come here.
Yeah, that's.
I'm only talking about it because
Well, it's
Because
such an interesting
Susan
thing and it's
asked me to
nearby.
talk
Yeah,
about it, so I
that's
didn't
great.
I don't have numbers ready or
Yeah,
anything.
that's great. Well, we should
But
know more about that.
it's an interesting thing, and it's gonna be a good
Yeah.
local. I mean, it's
That's
gonna
great.
happen.
I'll have to kind of look at the maps around there, the Google Earth files and stuff, and.
I can,
yeah.
if you're all interested in it, I can bring more information and some maps next time.
Yeah, that'd be good, just to, it's kind of good to know about these, we did have, I don't know if you remember, I heard about Roslyn Lake, it still shows up on a lot of the old maps, and that was owned by PG. And so that was kind of, in the 1997 plan, it talks about Roslyn Lake Park. There's a big swimming beaches and, bathhouses and, it was a big deal. And so that was kind of like one of our community parks. There was Roslyn Lake and then Minot. And then, and, Wildwood up the road, but, this Eagle Fern isn't that far away. So that's
Yeah.
cool. So when you're looking at that park inventory of what's around,
And you can swim
Available.
in the creek
for the different things,
on a really hot day.
Like the past week,
Yeah.
Good.
both is back in Texas,
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
say, now in person.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention, yeah. Thanks for bringing us the survey results, that's really cool.
Yeah, I thought they were very telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And exciting.
Yeah,
Will help us out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good job. All right, guys, thanks.
So we'll see you in August, 15th.
That's the plan.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
How's Nancy doing? Did you see her?
She's in Kyrgyzstan. With her, yeah, with her granddaughter, her Cole's, so there's like a bug down there. I don't need to kill it, but it's